with the video. This is my natural everyday makeup look. So if this is the look that you're trying to achieve, I'm gonna show you how to get it. Now let's get right into the video.
I'm going to go in with this Black Radiance setting powder and a fluffy brush, and I'm going to use that all over my brows. I like to use this step so I can dry out my brows, especially because I do use moisturizers and primers, so this just does a really good job at taking all of the moisture out of your brows so that I can then go in with the brow gel, which is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go ahead and go in with the Morphe Brow Gel with the spoolie that I got off of Amazon, and I'm just going to brush it through my brows thoroughly and shape my brows into the shape that I want them to be in, and then I'm going to give them a second to dry before going over them with powder again. While my brows are in the process of drying, I'm going to go in with my e.l.f. Hydro Grip Primer as well as my flat brush that I have from the company Real Techniques, and I'm just going to blend that in all over my face, get in all of the nooks and crannies and all of the spots around my brows. I make sure not to get any in my brows, and the primer just lays the foundation for me to go in with my color correcting concealer from LA Pro. I'm going to go in with the orange shade. I do have a little bit of hyperpigmentation and discoloration around my mouth, so I like to go in around that area. I'm then going to take this brush that I believe I got from Marshall's, and I'm going to use it to blend that entire area out. Once I'm satisfied with the blending, I'm going to stop blending and pick up my powder puff. And I'm going to use the back side of the powder puff, not the front side, as the front side is strictly for my under eyes and the rest of my face. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my Black Radiance powder on the puff and start dabbing that in. Moving back to my brows, I'm going to put some more powder over top of the Morphe Brow Gel, and I'm just going to really dry it out completely. This is how they should look, and then I'm going to go in with my Morphe Brow Pencil in the shade Chocolate Mousse, and I'm just going to outline my brows. I start with the bottom first, and then I go ahead and move to the top. I'm going to do my little flicks in the front, and then I'm going to fill in my brow at the back. My goal is to keep a really light hand all while doing this because I don't want any super harsh lines when I'm doing my brows. I also try my best to not make them look so blocky because this is not high school, and y'all know y'all did wrong for not telling me about myself back then. What is wrong with y'all? As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to do little hair-like strokes in the front of my brows just to make them look a little more natural. As a girly who barely has brows, to be honest, it's actually kind of great because I can make any shape I want with my brows to fit my makeup look or the aesthetic that I'm going for that day, and I really love that. I'm going to use the spoolie at the end of the pencil to brush them out and make them look a little more natural in the front. The two brushes I'm going to be using for this step are from Real Techniques and Max Lux Studios. I'm going to start by putting the shade Deep Cinnamon towards the back of my brows and the shade Deep Chestnut in the front of my brows with a splash of my Fenty foundation. I can't think of the shade right now, but I'll get it for you guys in the description box below. And I'm going to blend those front two colors in together to make it one shade. I'm going to start by carving out the backs of my brows first on both sides before moving to the front of my brows and the top of my brows. Now that we're finishing up the back of the brows, I will usually go ahead and wipe off the excess product from the brush before carving out the front of the brow. That same shade that I mixed in the front of my brow is going to be the same shade that I use on top of my brow as well. And after I do both the bottoms and the tops of my brows, I'm going to look in the mirror to make sure they both look even before I start blending them out with that purple Real Techniques brush. Using the same order as before when carving out the brows, I will blend out the backs of the brows first since that is the lightest shade, and then I'll blend the front of the brows, and then lastly I'll go to blending the top of the brows. Don't forget the middle of the brow because you don't want to look like you have a unibrow unless that's the look you're going for. So I'm going to take this powder puff again with a little bit of my setting powder on it, and I'm going to set my eyes. While setting my eyes, I'm going to make sure I hit every single crease because as we know, our eyes have a lot of creases, and if you don't set it correctly, then when you open your eyes, it could potentially start creasing. And here I am showing you that they're even, honey. So we're gonna take this micellar water. I use it a lot, as you can see, because it's damn near empty. Put it on a little bit of a pad and clean that brush off. Then we're gonna go in with my Fenty foundation, and we're gonna use that same concealer brush to put it all over my face. So as you guys can probably tell, I'm using a shade that is slightly darker than my face, but it's damn near the same color as my neck and chest. Not to mention, I'm a bright under eye girly, so I most definitely will be using a really bright concealer under my eye, which will end up lightening my face the rest of the way anyway. I'm then going to be going in with yet another Real Techniques brush to go ahead and blend that all out. I like to use an actual brush to blend out my foundation and not a beauty blender, but I do like to use a beauty blender to blend out my concealer. So here I am going in with the Hydrating Deep Cinnamon. Even though I was in 8th grade in 2016, I am still a 2016 concealer girly at heart. So I definitely like to put a lot of concealer, but don't worry, it'll all blend out seamlessly. But we're gonna put a quick pause to the concealer because I definitely forgot to do my eyeliner, which, pro tip, do your eyeliner before you do your concealer. I'm telling you, the concealer cleans it up so nicely. Don't be alarmed, it is a little messy, but that is what the concealer is for, and it will get it cleaned right on up. Going right back to my concealer, still using the hydrating shade of Deep Cinnamon. I'm going to place that on my forehead and my chin as well. Then I'm going to go in with Deep Cinnamon again, but this version is the camo version, right above that last one. Next, I'm going to go in with Tan Walnut right above that. Now that I have my base layers of concealer laid, I'm going to go ahead and use that shade Tan Walnut to clean up my eyeliner on both sides. Going back in with my concealer brush, I'm going to take my foundation shade and I'm going to blend that on the outer portions of that concealer. I make sure to use my foundation shade on the outer portions of both my cheeks, my forehead, and my chin, just to make sure it all blends seamlessly and I have no harsh lines. And now that that's done, I can grab my wet beauty blender and start blending from the darker shades in. So from the outer portions in. And girl, please don't mind the faces I'm making. That's how you know you blended it well. Once I get to this point, I'm going to give it a once over and then I'm going to take my foundation brush and blend out those edges all around. Once I get finished blending those edges, I'm going to move on to my forehead where I have not blended out the concealer yet. And I'm going to be using the same process here where I blend the concealer out and then blend the edges with the foundation. Moving on to my lightest concealer yet. This is going to be for my bright under eye that I love so much. And these are all of the concealers that I've used throughout this entire process. Now, when blending out this concealer specifically, you need to have that powder puff with the powder on it on standby, because as soon as you get finished blending this out and it looks to your liking, you're going to immediately set. I don't know about you guys, but for me, if I look down for even a second, I'm already experiencing creasing. I start with setting my under eyes first, and then I'm gonna go on to my nose and then the rest of my face. I set my entire face with this same setting powder, and I definitely use a little extra setting powder in my smile lines because I do tend to smile. Now you're gonna see me go back in with the concealer brush to fix it up a little bit just to make sure there's no harsh lines around my eyes. Now I set my entire face with this loose setting powder because I don't use pressed powders, but you can use pressed powders if you'd like. It's really all about preference, so whatever you prefer is what you should use. Now I'm going in with my two Juvia's Place bronzers in the shades Dark and Deep Dark. I use the first shades in both of them. Now as you can see, I use this one a lot, way more than the other shade. This is like my base shade. I like to think of this one as my builder shade because I can always add more to get to the desired color, and I also go on top of this one with the other one. Now as you guys already probably noticed, I do not use contour and I don't use liquid contour or liquid bronzer. I go straight in with the powder because that is my preference. But if you do use liquid bronzer or liquid contour, you can definitely add that step in. Getting into the bronzer that I'm putting on my nose, I like to put it in the inner corners near my eyes first and then drag it down my nose, only leaving a really thin gap in the middle, just because I like to really snatch my nose, and if you do it that way, your nose will look super snatched. Also, I take it onto my eyelid just a little bit just so it blends in seamlessly and there's no harsh lines. But getting back to the nose, I love to have a cute little button nose, so you're going to see me put it at the edge of my nose, and I'm going to form a little box As I'm forming this box, I'm going to leave a small gap for a thin horizontal line to go across my nose, just like I left the other thin vertical line going down my nose. We're now going to get into the palette Deep Dark, where I'm going to introduce the Deep Dark and I'm going to put it at the very bottom of the bronzer that I already did on my cheeks, just to deepen that line just a tad. We're now going to go in with this blush palette from Max Lux Studios, and as you can see, that shade at the bottom is my favorite color. I'm going to set that right on top of my bronzer, and I'm also going to do it at the bottom of my nose where I created that button shape. Baby, do I love me some blush. I know we're all suffering from a tad bit, and I'm gonna say that very lightly, a tad bit of blush blindness, but girl, the blush be eating. So yeah, I'm gonna take the blush and I'm also gonna put a little bit of it on the top of my eyelids just for a little spice. And then I'm gonna wipe off my lips with another cotton round and some micellar water. I know some of the makeup girlies prefer to have a little concealer on their lips so that it helps their lip liner sit better, but me personally, I'm the complete opposite. I want to take all of the product off my lips so that I can get the best results and there's no mixing. I'm also going to take that same cotton round that I used to wipe off my lips and I'm going to wipe off my nose rings. I'm then going to go in with my Kiss lash glue and I'm going to apply that directly above my lash line. And I'm going to apply it on the skin because I prefer to put it on my skin rather than putting it on the lashes, as I find that the lashes dry so much slower than if you were to just put it directly on your skin. And then I'm going to go in with this mascara and I'm going to go over my lashes with the sole purpose of helping them blend better with the falsies. I already took the time to measure and pre-cut my lashes off camera, and now I'm just going to place them on. I like to use cat eyelashes because I feel like they look better on my face and they accentuate my face way more than other lashes do, and girl, they just eat with the liner. I like to apply my lashes with tweezers just because I feel like it gives me a better hold and application just because I'm always wearing nails. So after I do both sides, I do my little pinching them together and I'm going to move them around a little bit and adjust them so that they both look exactly the same. I'm then going to grab my little fan from Amazon and my Morphe setting spray, my holy grail, but first you gotta protect the lace, so grab that lace band and throw that mug on. You want to be spraying and drying at the exact same time. I personally like to drench my face, but not to the point where it's dripping down, because once it starts dripping, it can mess it up a little bit. I'm going to grab my two favorite lip liners from the beauty supply store. They're from Kiss, and I'm going to line it with the light brown version first, and I'm going to go over my lips, the bottom and the top, and I'm going to overline the top just a little bit. I don't like that super overlined look, but I do like my lips to look a little bit more round instead of defining my cupid's bow. During this step, I'm going to take the time to make sure my lips look even and to make sure that both sides are matching. And after I determine that, I'm going to then switch to my other lip liner, which is the darkest shade, and I'm going to line only the outer portion. I'm not going to go inside. I'm only going to do the very outer line. I love me an ombre lip. And once that's done, I'm going to go in with the shade Fortune Cookie by NYX or NYX. And then I'm going to top that off with a clear lip gloss. And I'm going to lightly pop my lips together, but I'm not going to rub because you don't want it to get muddy. You want the colors to stay where you put them, so I'm just going to lightly pop them. I'm going to go in with that same eyeliner that I used before, and I'm going to place my beauty marks. I like to put one right above my lip and also one under my eye.
So yeah, this is what it's looking like. Your girl is looking cute. And yeah.
This is a close-up on the hair and makeup. Yeah.